Tonight isn't about fixing your whole life. It's about finding a small hinge that moves the door. I'm you, just a few steps ahead, with 10 letters for stuck days. We won't bully ourselves into motion. We'll design for it. 2 minutes that change the slope. A smaller question with a real answer. One visible win that proves the day can still move. By the end, you won't be faster. You'll be free enough to begin. Ready? Story 1. The 2-minute nudge. You are not broken. You are paused. Stuck is not a diagnosis. It's a room where the lights happen to be off, and the door is a little heavier than usual. You've been pushing on the wrong side of it. More effort, more guilt, more theories about why you're especially flawed. Tonight, try something unromantic and effective. A 2-minute nudge that changes the slope of the floor, so motion happens almost by accident. Set a timer where you can see it. Not a threatening countdown. The digital equivalent of a friend standing in the doorway saying, "I'll wait while you grab your coat." Breathe in for 4, hold for 2, out for 6. Let the exhale be longer than the inhale, so your nervous system understands the new plan. We will act without sounding an alarm. Name one task your shaking hands can do in 120 seconds. Not clean the kitchen, but clear the sink. Not write the chapter, but type 3 ugly sentences. Not fix my life, but stage tomorrow's clothes. Precision is mercy. Precision gives you something to aim at besides your own self-worth. Stuck loves to hold meetings in your head. Replace debate with choreography. Stand up now. If it's work, open the exact file. If it's body, put on shoes. If it's home, pick a corner. Your brain will file an objection about sequence. Shouldn't we plan first? Choose tools, read a thread. Overruled. Planning is useful after motion begins. We are changing state, not shipping perfection. The timer has already started. You are already moving, however ridiculously. A nudge that looks small from the outside can move a building if it's applied at a hinge. Notice how quickly your mind volunteers sophisticated sabotage. An app you really should install. A system you really should build. A playlist you really should curate before doing the tiny thing. Smile at the tuxedo on your procrastination. Say, later, with the same tone you'd use to a child requesting dessert before dinner. Then, do the next physical action your hands know. Put the plate in the rack. Type the date at the top of the page. Fill the bottle. Press record, and mumble a first sentence no one will hear but you. This is not lowering standards. This is lowering altitude so your lungs can work again. Halfway through, boredom will arrive, and it will be tempting to treat it as failure. It isn't. Boredom is the doorway from panic to practice. Lean through it. Count backwards from 60 while your body completes the simple sequence your brain no longer needs to narrate. You will discover something embarrassing and empowering. Progress is embarrassingly procedural. The glamorous parts, the flow states, the clever lines, the sparkling counters, come later, after the engine is warm. Right now, you're turning the key. When the timer ends, stop for 8 seconds. Let your eyes land on something not a screen. Steam rising from a mug. The square of lamplight on the floor. The way the curtain lifts when the heater sighs. This is a micro-intermission, not a verdict. Ask one question. Is the slope easier now? Not, am I fixed? Not, is this good? Just, Does the floor tilt toward done by 1 degree more than it did 3 minutes ago? If yes, run another 2 minutes. If no, trade the angle. Switch domains while keeping momentum. Clear the inbox of 3 low-blood emails. Fold 8 inches of laundry. Carry the trash to the door. Momentum is promiscuous. It does not mind switching partners as long as the song continues. If you can only afford a single nudge, make it staging, the kind of act your future self will mistake for a miracle. Pack the bag like you love the person who will pick it up. You do. Put the document front and center in your dock, with a bracketed note at the top. Next, describe the train window. Put the pan to soak, the mat on the floor, the shoes by the door with the laces loose. We mythologize willpower because it lets us stay the same between attempts. Staging changes the environment, so even a mediocre Tuesday behaves. There will be days when you cannot lift anything heavier than a question. On those days, pick a smaller one. Not, how do I fix this? But, what is the next visible stone? If the stone won't appear, ask, what is the smallest proof that I am moving? Maybe it's a file name that exists, a calendar event with a verb in it, a text that says, received, will revert by EOD. Proof beats pep talks. Proof changes posture. Your shoulders know. 2 minutes sounds insulting to the scale of your stuckness. That's fine. The point of a nudge is not to solve, it's to switch. From sealed to ajar. From static to kinetic. From self-indictment to evidence. Evidence makes you kinder because it shortens the distance between who you are and who you say you'll be. Stuck hates evidence. It prefers epiphany. Tonight, be suspicious of epiphanies and greedy for proof. Keep a log you'll actually read. Title it Nudges. Each entry. Time. Tiny task. 1 outcome word. 19:10. Cleared sink. Lighter. 22:05. Wrote 3 lines. Possible. 07:40. Shoes on. Block around. Awake. Do not grade yourself. Witness yourself. After a week, flip back and notice the constellation you've drawn. It will not look like triumph. It will look like continuity. Continuity is the quiet superpower that rescues people who used to require miracles. If shame interrupts, this is too small to matter. A serious person wouldn't need tricks. Remember that even pilots use checklists, and even surgeons count sponges. Ritual isn't childish. It's how professionals domesticate complexity. Your 2-minute nudge is not a hack. It's design. It turns a door you've been ramming into a door you can open with a wrist on nights when the house is loud with reasons to quit. Choose a mercy nudge. Set the kettle. Rinse the cup. Lay the notebook open to a blank page with the date already written. Put your phone in another room like a toddler who can't be trusted with scissors. Leave 1 clean sentence for morning you. Begin by copying this sentence. You are not trying to impress anyone. You are building a ramp. If you want to get fancy later, you can create a rotation, 3 nudges per domain, that you cycle without thinking. Work. Open file. Write 3 ugly lines. Rename with today's date. Body. Shoes on. Door open. 3 blocks. Home. Sink. Surfaces. Stage. Heart. Text 1 human. Thinking of you. Write 1 sentence of gratitude specific enough to find later. Put a book on your pillow so scrolling has to climb over it. But do not start by being fancy. Start by starting. There is a moment, usually at the 90-second mark, when the air in the room changes. Not victory, voltage. You will feel it as the subtle humiliation of discovering the lock was never that complicated, and the key was never that far. Don't use the moment to scold yourself for waiting. Use it to widen the door another inch. Nudges compound. Compound nudges build days that tilt toward done. Days that tilt become weeks you trust. And trusted weeks are how a life uncurls from a knot. Before you sleep, perform the smallest closing ritual you can stand. Turn one light off with your own hand. Say a sentence that signals sufficiency. Today was enough to make tomorrow easier. The line is true because you nudged the slope. That's all the contract ever asked. Stuck is not a life sentence. It is a posture. You just shifted your weight. Keep it shifted for 2 minutes more, then 2. You don't have to run, yet. You just have to move where the floor quietly wants you to go. Story 2. Shrink the problem, keep the promise. Being stuck often feels like standing in front of a locked cathedral door with a key ring full of keys and no map. The instinct is to make a better key. Study the lock, draw schematics, read a treatise on medieval hinges. Anything but try one key in one lock. And when we finally try, we aim for the grand entrance. What if you walked around and found a side door sized for a human instead of a legend? Shrinking the problem isn't shrinking you. It's choosing a door your current courage can open, while keeping the promise the door represents. Start by separating promise from package. Promise is the non-negotiable heart. Deliver something that moves this forward truthfully. Package is the negotiable theater. All the slides, flourishes, and auto-playing music we imagine will make the promise look worthy. You can keep the promise and simplify the package without betrayal. Write it down. Promise. By 5 p.m., a clear, useful draft my teammate can react to. Everything else is furniture. Now define a minimum true version, MTV, not minimal viable, which can quietly excuse half done, but true, the smallest version that tells the truth and can survive daylight. If you're preparing a 12-slide deck, an MTV might be 3 slides. Problem in 1 sentence, path in 3 bullets, next steps with owners and dates. If you owe a 2,000-word article, MTV is 600 words with a spine. Headline, 1 story, 1 insight, 1 call to action. If you promised yourself a 45-minute workout, MTV is 10 minutes of the movements that change your mood fastest. Shrinking doesn't mean slacking. It means compressing the diamond first and polishing later. The brain, trained by school and shame, will accuse you of cutting corners. Answer with sequence. Corners are cut when you never return. Sequence is wise when you return better. Write a contract with yourself. Deliver MTV today, by 5. Schedule past 2, tomorrow. 10 to 10:45 for depth. Past 3, Friday for shine. When improvement has a calendar, integrity doesn't have to fight ego. Give yourself a definition of done. DOD. You can check without vibes. Example for the 3-slide deck. Slide 1 states the problem in 18 words, no jargon. Slide 2 lists exactly 3 actions with owners. Each starts with a verb. Slide 3 shows dates and a single risk with mitigation. If those boxes are ticked, you are done for today, even if the deck isn't pretty. Done is a doorway, not a throne. Scope creep is Stuck's favorite accomplice. It arrives whispering, "While you're here." Resist with a "while you're here" list. A parking lot you'll triage later. Every extra idea goes there, not into the current scope. Promise yourself a 10-minute sweep at the end to capture the best of them. You're not disrespecting ideas. You're respecting the path. When the task is a fog bank, shrink by changing the unit of measurement. Instead of hours, count decisions. For a messy project, make 5 decisions in 25 minutes. Name files, pick a folder structure, choose the column headers, decide draft versus final labels. Decisions are levers. Each one shortens tomorrow, or change the axis from quality to quantity temporarily. Write 200 bad words that all start with verbs. Generate 10 ugly thumbnail sketches with rectangles and circles only. List 12 imperfect title options. Quantity turns off the museum voice in your head. Later you curate, now you produce. The promise you're keeping is momentum with materials, not magnificence. If the problem is interpersonal, an apology, a boundary, a request, shrink the theater. No manifesto. 4 lines. Bridge. I care about us, so I want to say this plainly. Smallest true thing. When meetings run long, I miss pickup and feel panicked. Concrete ask. Can we end at 55? And I'll send a rap note. Forward door. Happy to adjust if there's a better way. The promise isn't to perform humility. It's to repair the road so traffic can flow tomorrow. Sometimes shrinking means changing tools to ones that force clarity. Draft the email in a text editor with a 60-character wrap, so your lines have to be short. Sketch the flow on an index card. If it doesn't fit, your flow isn't a flow. Present your idea to a rubber duck or a colleague in 90 seconds. If you can't, you're hiding complexity under adjectives. Tools that constrain are kindness, wearing overalls. Design the first and last stones. The river between will appear. First stone showers action with physicality. Open a blank doc named MTV as outline. Today.md. Last stone is us where the baton passes. Paste the link into the team channel with one question. Script the handoff sentence before you begin. Sharing a 3-slide MTV for feedback on sequence only. Polish Friday. That sentence protects scope from performative nitpicks and makes collaborators useful. When shame arrives, it always does, with its 2 favorite lies. Small equals lazy and partial equals poor. Answer with architecture. Skyscrapers are built floor by floor. No one calls the first floor lazy because the penthouse isn't done. A partial bridge that correctly spans one pillar is not poor. It's a tested module. Architecture respects load. So should your plan. Make time a box, not a blur. Fixed scope and unlimited time becomes self-harm. Fixed time with adaptive scope becomes craft. Say, 90 minutes for MTV, then stop. Set 3 checkpoints. At 20 minutes, scope check. Are we still building the small, true thing? At 60, sequence check. Can another human follow this? At 85, closure check. Are the links shareable? Names sensible? Next steps visible? When the bell rings, stop. You're building trust with your future, not just tools for your present. Shrink the audience too. If you're writing for everyone, you're writing to no one. Pick a single reader you can picture. Write their first name at the top of the doc. Hi, Lena. Here's the 3-step path and the one thing that could break it. Decisions get easier when a face replaces a crowd, when energy is the bottleneck. Shrink the ambition of the day, not the identity of the work. Declare a maintenance day. Keep systems breathing. Email triage, calendar hygiene, file naming, 20-minute reset at night. Maintenance prevents dominoes from lining up against you. The promise you keep is to the continuity that tomorrow will inherit. If your world is full of dependencies, shrink by borrowing rails. Co-work on a video call where each person says their 45-minute MTV, mutes, and returns at the bell with one tangible proof. External rails reduce the cost of self-discipline. That is not weakness. That is engineering for humans. Here's a field guide of shrink dark keep moves across domains. Writing, shrink. 600-word MTV with headline plus 1 story plus 1 insight plus 1 CTA. Keep. Promise of clarity and a take that helps a real reader. Dodi. No sentence over 22 words. 1 verb per bullet. Bold the ask. Design. Shrink. Low fidelity wireframe of 1 user path to the aha. Keep. Promise that the path is legible to a newcomer. Do D. 3 screens. Each has a single primary action. Labels pass the grandma test. Engineering. Shrink. Feature flag. A read-only version. Log interactions. Keep. Promise that the team can learn from real clicks. Safely. Dodi. Test screen. Rollback ready. Telemetry on. Operations. Shrink. 1-page runbook with trigger. Owner. Checklist. Keep. Promise that the next person won't guess under stress. Do D. Dry run once. Time stamped. Stored where people actually look. Relationships. Shrink. 4-line repair text and a 15-minute call. Keep. Promise to tell the smallest true thing and make 1 forward rule. Dodi. 1 apology without but. 1 ask. 1 check back date. Protect your shrunken scope with language that shepherds. Phrases like first pass, 4 sequence only, MTV attached, alpha cut. Watch for beats, not color. Cue the right kind of feedback. If someone gives polished notes anyway, thank them and park it. Noted for Friday's pass. Today I'm validating the spine. When you deliver the small, true thing, announce your return ticket. Pass 2 on Thursday will deepen examples. Pass 3 next week for visuals. People trust work that shows its calendar. You've kept today's promise and preserved tomorrow's excellence. That combination, honest now, better later, becomes a reputation rooms will fight to keep. As you practice, keep a log titled Kept Promises, Small Packages. 1-line entries. 3 slide path shared. Team unblocked. 600 words shipped. Reader wrote, "This untied a knot." Read-only prototype caught the bug early. 4-line text repaired Tuesday. Read it on nights when your ambition calls you a coward. Ambition is useful when it pulls. It is dangerous when it shames. The log is a counterweight. Finally, remember the cake. Bringing a real cake, slightly crooked frosting, parchment wrinkled, feeds a room better than arriving with a theory about 5 kinds of ganache. Today, feed the room. Deliver the slice you can bake now. Leave a note on the plate. Layer 2 coming Friday. People will eat. Your confidence will eat. The work will eat. And tomorrow, with a fed system, you can bake again. Story 3. Make it frictionless. You don't need more willpower. You need less gravel on the road you actually want to drive. Willpower is an emergency generator. Loud, smoky, and meant for short bursts. Design, on the other hand, is the quiet grid that keeps lights on without speeches. Tonight, your job isn't to become stronger, it's to become easier to help. Make your good choices feel lazy. Begin with the physics of reach. Put the thing you want most within 1 motion, and the thing you don't want behind at least 2. Shoes by the door, laces loose. Notebook open to a dated page with a pen already uncapped. Dock pinned to the dock, top left. Named for today, so your eyes land on it. Coffee beans ground the night before. Kettle filled. Phone. In another room like a toddler who can't be trusted with scissors. This is not discipline. This is choreography. You are moving furniture so your future self stops stubbing their shins. Make a launch runway for each domain you care about. For work, the document you'll touch first. The single question you'll answer. The link you'll paste when you're done. For body, shoes, bottle, keys. A playlist that starts with a song that makes you stand up without thinking. For home, a tray labeled tomorrow. Keys, ID, headphones, the thing that always disappears when you're late. For heart, 3 stamped envelopes, or a notes app list titled People to Check On, so affection has a cue instead of a wish. Reduce the number of decisions at the door. Pick a uniform for beginnings. A hoodie you only wear for first passes. A mug that signals writing mode. 1 candle scent that means you're here now. These are handles for your nervous system. The body loves handles. It will do the right thing if you make the right thing the easiest thing to grab. Put friction on the fraud. Delete the app, or at least bury it in a folder called tax forms. Put websites you fall into behind a blocker that asks you to type a full sentence like, I choose to waste 15 minutes. Surprisingly, you won't type it often. If you doom scroll in bed, plug your phone in across the room and put a paperback on your pillow. Scrolling should have to climb over a book. If email steals your morning, set your client to manual fetch. Make distraction knock before it enters. Engineer single-click starts. If recording is hard, because software is fussy, build a template project with the mic set, levels saved, and a countdown disabled, so you don't get stage fright at 3, 2, 1. If designing is hard, because canvases are blank deserts, keep a file of starter grids and drop one in first. If writing is hard because you hate confronting silence, dictate the first paragraph into your phone while you walk. Paste the mess in. Fix it later. First clicks shouldn't require courage. They should require curiosity. Adopt the chef's mise en place. Everything you need for one focused hour lives within arm's reach. Everything else is in another room. Put tools back in the same place when you stop, not because you're neat, but because tomorrow's best chance is a room that feels already decided. Decide once. Use many. When you work with others, design the on-ramp for them too. Share the link and the 30-second context they would otherwise spend 10 minutes asking for. Offer a 1-sentence request. React to sequence only. Polish Friday. Ask for the format that makes it easy for them to help. Could you leave 3 bullets at the top, not inline comments? Good design turns favors into quick taps of a button. People say yes to buttons. Build kill switches for bad momentum. A physical book on the coffee table you're allowed to read when your brain hits cement. A 5-minute reset sweep checklist. Surfaces, sink, staging, kettle. A rule that says, if you change tabs twice in a minute, you stand and refill your water. Not punishment, pattern break. The point isn't purity, it's to keep the needle from freezing to the coldest side. If your attention shatters, change context, not task. Same draft, new chair. Same slide, a cafe with mild clatter. Same email, the balcony with honest air. Attention is a solar panel. Angle matters. Don't scold the panel for clouds. Tilt it toward whatever sun remains. Give your calendar rails instead of puddles. Put beginnings at the edge of your day. Right after you arrive. Right after lunch. Right after a walk. Edge times are easier to find. The brain loves thresholds. Name blocks for the movement they require. Outline, 3 bullets with verbs, not work on blog. Your hours should read like choreography, not aspiration. Turn ambiguous work into repeatable scenes. The writing scene has you set the timer, whisper just a notch, and type 3 ugly lines. The design scene starts with a dump of references and 10 tiny rectangles. The admin scene opens with a batch reply. Received will revert by EOD to triage 10 messages at once. Scenes are how theater survives night after night. They'll help you survive Tuesdays. Automate what you repeatedly resist. If you always forget to stretch, pair it with kettle time. If you always skip the walk, call the same friend at the same mile marker. Make the road expect you. If you always avoid opening the dock, set a tiny automation that opens it when your machine wakes between 8:30 and 9 ISIS. You're not trying to be impressive. You're trying to be inevitable. Design mercies on purpose. A blanket within reach of the desk chair for late drafts. A better bulb so your room stops making 5 p.m. feel like midnight. A small speaker that plays the same instrumental song when you start. Pavlov is on your side if you invite him. Mercy doesn't make you soft. It keeps you available at the end of each day. Stage 1, next step. So tomorrow begins mid-sentence. Put a bracketed note at the top of the draft. Next, the bit about the platform clock at about 07. Place the running shoes pointed at the door. Set the first block title to a verb you like saying aloud. Turn off one light with your hand. Say, I made it easy, even if you only moved a cup. You are building a world that helps you back. This isn't a self-esteem project. It's a sidewalk project. You don't tell sidewalks they're strong. You pour them smooth and put them where the feet actually go. You will still have hard days, but the ratio changes. More days will feel like sliding into a river you set to your depth. Fewer will feel like hauling a boat across gravel. If you're going to haul, let it be because the work is noble, not because the room was indifferent. Make it frictionless. Let the grid hum. Story. 4. Trade. Urgency for sequence. Urgency shouts. Sequence whispers. Urgency says now to everything and burns your attention like kindling. Sequence asks, what must happen before what? And then quietly arranges dominoes, so effort falls in your favor. The hard truth is that most stuck isn't about speed, it's about order. Doing the right work in the wrong order feels like failure wearing boots. Start with a painfully honest inventory. What is the North Star sentence that names success without poetry? One line with a verb and a for whom. Ship a 3-screen flow a new user can complete in under 90 seconds. Deliver a 5-minute talk that lands 1 rule and 1 image. Close the week with a run book someone else can use at 2 a.m. Urgency hates this step. It prefers fog because fog justifies running in circles. Sequence requires a destination, even if it changes later. List the dependencies between here and there, like you're laying out plywood on sawhorses. Not everything, just the bones. What can't exist until what exists? If the talk needs a story, the story needs a scene. If the scene needs accuracy, accuracy needs a call to the person who lived it. The call needs 10 minutes and a calendar. The shortest path is unlocking, not laboring. Choose the single dependency that turns the most lights on for everything else, and do that first, even if it's small, even if it's not glamorous. You are flipping breakers, not flexing. Separate the project into modes and refuse to blend them. Gather, decide, make, polish. Most thrash happens because you gather while you're making, decide while you should be polishing, and polish before anything exists. Put each mode in its own time box, and label the box like a room on a floor plan. 9 Takur 925. Gather. Pull 3 references, call 1 human, write 1 sentence that names the promise. Break. 9:39 to 50. Decide. Pick the spine and kill 2 darlings. Break. 10 Sakin 11 and Psychness. Make. Produce the ugly first pass. Only when the thing exists are you allowed into the Polish room, where details live. You don't invite electricians before there are walls. Build a critical path short enough to fit on an index card. 5 stones across the river. Any more, and you're labeling the water. Stone 1 unlocks stone 2. Unlocks stone 3. Write them with verbs. Tape the card to the top of your screen. When urgencies arrive, flapping their papers, email pings, quick thoughts, a meeting that pretends to be about priorities while multiplying your work, check the card and ask, which stone is this? If it isn't a stone, it waits. Urgency is not your boss. The card is. Sequence also applies to energy. Place deep work at the top of your slope. Hours when your brain is generous, so gravity helps. Put meetings in the valleys, where your mind already diffuses. Stack, like so context, doesn't tax you with costume changes. 2 creative blocks, back to back, beat a creative admin creative sandwich that bleeds an hour to transitions. You are not lazy when you respect context. You are efficient. Name and schedule the prerequisites. Creativity pretends not to need a walk, a glass of water, a reset sweep, 1 page of free writing that emits the garbage thoughts you would otherwise compost in the middle of the good stuff. These are not indulgences. They are priming. Primed work begins faster and wanders less. Urgency tries to skip priming and then punishes you for friction it created. If others are involved, ask for order, not effort. Before I spend 4 hours, can you confirm the 3 beats we agree matter? Could you react to sequence only? Are the steps in the right order? People like being helpful. They often don't know how. Sequence questions turn them into mirrors instead of judges. Mirrors save you weeks. Design checkpoints that prevent heroics. At 20%, does the spine hold? At 60%, can a stranger follow? At 90%, does the Polish honor the intent? Or is it lacquer hiding a crack? Set alarms for these checkpoints. When they ring, you surface. You look at the map. You correct 5 degrees before you're a county off. Heroics are just untreated drift with good lighting. Trade them for maintenance. Remember that firsts unlock seconds. Until you draft the email, you can't get feedback. Until you schedule the call, the story won't exist. Until you name the variables, the function can't compile. When stuck, ask, which first will liberate the next 5 minutes of this project? Don't choose the impressive first. Choose the fertile one. Sequence governs speech, too. In hard conversations, lead with the bridge. I care about us, so I want to say this plainly, before the complaint, and follow with a forward door. Can we try X this week? In meetings, name the decision to be made before the updates, then stop when the decision is made. Urgency loves updates. Sequence loves outcomes. When your plan breaks, and it will, re-sequence instead of redoubling. Pause, restack the blocks, and resume. There is no prize for running faster on the wrong staircase. The bravest sentence in any project might be, "We reordered it." Teams respect the person who cares about order enough to change it when reality disagrees. Keep a pocket notebook titled, "Order Wins." At the end of a day that felt like wading through glue, write one line about sequence you wish you'd known at 9 a.m. If I'd called procurement first, the afternoon opens. If I storyboard before research, I waste research. If I batch replies after lunch, mornings keep their soul. You're building a private manual. Less hustle, more hinge. Urgency will keep trying to audition. It flashes and it flatters, and sometimes you'll hire it. For fires, for finales, for the last 10 meters when the tape is in sight. But an urgency-led life is a string of sprints with no road between them. Sequence lays the road. It's quiet, and it's patient, and it will get you there with a heart you can still use. Put the next stone down. Step. Then the next. The river does not care how fast you move. It cares whether you're moving in a line that reaches the other side. Story 5. Ask a smaller question. Overwhelm breeds in questions that are too big to hold. How do I fix this? Is a cathedral. You can't even reach the first window. Shrink the question until it can be answered by a person who's tired, with whatever's already on the table. Replace grandeur with precision. Not, how do I write this report? But, what problem does slide one name in under 18 words? Not, how do I get healthy? But, what can I do for 6 minutes today that will make tomorrow easier to move? Make the question small enough to be kind and specific enough to be true. Use the 3 lenses when you're stuck staring at the fog nearby. What can be done in the next 10 minutes without asking anyone for permission? Next. What would obviously follow that if it were done? Necessary. If I did only one thing today that matters to this outcome, which would keep tomorrow from starting at 0. Write the answer to each on a sticky note, stack them in order, and start with nearby. You are not dodging the complex problem. You are making a mouth you can bite. Turn impossible questions into countable questions. What 3 decisions unblock the rest? Write them. Decide them. Even if you're wrong, you're now wrong specifically. Specific wrongs can be repaired by noon. Or swap how for where is the hinge. Every stuck system has one hinge, one phone call, one variable name, one person to align with. Hinge questions sound like, whose yes makes the rest easier? Which input does the model actually care about? If this had to fit on one index card, what goes on the card? Find the hinge, and you found the smallest lever. If the question is interpersonal, make it answerable without drama. Would it help if I sent agendas a day early? Is easier to meet than, how can we communicate better? If it's craft, practice the 1-meter test. Explain the point of the thing to a colleague who is literally 1 meter away in 30 seconds flat. If the point won't fit, the question is still too big. When you catch yourself polishing phrasing for a question you've asked 3 times, stop. You are asking for comfort, not clarity. Trade the perfect question for an experiment. Ask, what 20-minute test would reduce uncertainty by 30%? Build the test. Run it. The answer becomes a map. Finally, write one gentle question on a card you keep by your keyboard. What would make this kinder for future me? The answer is usually small. A file name that sorts correctly. A date on a doc. One line at the top that says where to start tomorrow. Kindness is not a detour. It is an accelerant for people who intend to return. Story 6. One visible win. Stuck days. need evidence you can see, not theoretical progress you can only imagine. Pick one action that creates a tangible artifact or a public change. You're not optimizing optics. You're repairing trust with yourself. Trust grows fastest when your eyes can count. Choose a win that is A, small, B, useful, and C, witnessed. Examples: share a 3-slide MTV in the team channel with the line, "Sequence check only. Polish Friday." Close a ticket with a 1-sentence summary of what changed and where to find it. Record a 90-second lo-fi voice note of the intro and drop it in the doc. Ship a read-only prototype behind a feature flag and paste the link. At home, clear the sink to dry, take a photo, send to no one. The photo is the witness. Build a 1-win menu for recurring stuckness. 5 options per domain, all under 20 minutes. When your brain goes blank, you pick, you set a timer, you move. The menu prevents decision fatigue from masquerading as nobility. Example: work, 3-slide MTV, comment summary, name files to spec, schedule the alignment call, draft the 4-line ask, body, shoes on in 3 blocks, 10 air squats, plus 10 push-ups, 6-minute stretch, water, plus protein, sunlight for 5 minutes, home, sink, surfaces, stage tomorrow, trash out, laundry to machine, heart, text 1 sentence of gratitude, mail 1 postcard, schedule a 15-minute walk with a friend. When possible, place the win early. Momentum acquired at 9:20 a.m. compounds all day. If you miss the morning, reclaim the middle. A 2:30 p.m. dispatch that unblocks another human. People associate you with motion. The story about you changes rooms. Make the win public enough to help, private enough to be safe. Announce the scope. First pass. Looking for gaps in order, not copy edits. That single sentence buys you the right feedback and keeps perfection at the door. If you consistently deliver small, true things with guardrails, you'll earn a reputation for reliability. Reputations like that start the next day in your favor. Close the day by writing the win on a whiteboard where your eyes will trip over it in the morning. Visible win. MTV shipped. This is not bragging. It's calibration. Calibration helps you start closer to the next step and farther from shame. Story. 7. Borrow a deadline. Some problems refuse to move until a clock stands over them with folded arms. You can create that clock without inviting panic. Borrow a deadline that is external, bounded, and humane. 3 sources of borrowed deadlines: co-work, synchronous, DM a friend, 45-minute focus, cameras off. At 50, we report 1 proof. Put the proof in the calendar invite description so both nervous systems know what counts. Public check-in, asynchronous. Post in a small channel. Sharing a 3-slide MTV at 4:45 for sequence feedback only. The commitment exists outside your head. Outside commitments behave better. Event anchors, environmental. Start at the top or bottom of the hour. End when your timer and kettle sing. Pair the alarm with a tiny ritual. Stand, water, window. Ritual means it ends. Nervous systems trust endings. Design the deadline so it protects sequence, not theater. Ask for the kind of feedback that unlocks the next stone. Are these the beats? Not, is this beautiful? Beauty will have its turn. Invite one person who understands what first pass means and will not send you 12 Polish notes you can't use yet. Beware counterfeit deadlines. Hand-wavy EODs no one will notice. Counterfeits train you to ignore yourself. If you set EOD, make it visible. Calendar event, C16-45-17 Sagrius, titled Send MTV V0 to Lena. When 16:45 hits, you aren't deciding whether to do it. You're arriving where you said you would be. If anxiety spikes, right-size the ask. Can I borrow your eyes for 2 minutes? Do these 3 bullets tell a story in order? People love small, solvable asks. You'll get back a sentence you can stand on. Return the favor next time. Be someone else's borrowed clock. When the bell rings, ship what exists, not what you hoped would exist. Add 1 line of scope to your message. Polish Friday. Please ignore phrasing. Put the next time box on the calendar before you close the lid. Deadlines work because they create edges. Keep the edges sharp and kind. Story 8. Switch scenes. Same. Task attention is not broken, it's badly angled. Instead of switching tasks and paying the context tax, switch scenes while keeping the same verb. Write paragraph 2 at the kitchen counter. Sketch the wireframe in the cafe, where the hum is soft enough to push you a little. Draft the 4-line text on a walk with your phone on airplane mode. Send it when you're back. You're not escaping the work. You're giving your attention a new lens. Create 3 go-to scenes per verb. You use a lot. Write A. Desk plus lamp plus headphones. B. Kitchen counter plus timer. C. Park bench plus notebook. Design A. Monitor plus grid template. B. iPad plus pencil on couch. C. Printouts plus scissors at the table. Decide. A. Whiteboard plus markers. B. Index cards on floor. C. 10-minute call with a partner who asks, "What's the hinge?" Pre-pack scene kits. A pouch with pens, plus index cards. A charger that lives in the bag. A folded lap blanket if drafts take you late. If you remove friction from changing scenes, you'll use the move when you need it, not just when you're desperate. Use scene changes to reset stakes. The living room says, informal first pass. The desk says, do it like you mean it. The balcony says, make a decision and send it. If the room you're in tells a story you can't inhabit, too formal when you are fragile, too social when you need silence, go where your nervous system cooperates. Set a time ceiling before you move. 20 minutes at the cafe, then send V0. Without a ceiling, scene switching becomes scenery shopping. You're not looking for magic. You're tilting a solar panel towards sun. If you can't leave the space, simulate a scene. Stand to write for 10 minutes. Turn off overheads and use a single warm lamp. Put on the same instrumental track you always start with. Open the window. Your brain is more Pavlovian than you admit. Give it a bell that means, we begin here in this way. When scene switching works, it can feel like cheating. It isn't. You are a creature with a body, and bodies read rooms. Read the room on purpose. Change it if it's lying. Story 9. The Five-Line Debrief. Most reflection
is either self-congratulation or self-scolding. Neither teaches. End your work block with a 5-line debrief that extracts learning without bruising the instrument.
What moved? 1 sentence, factual. 3-slide MTV shared. Lena confirmed sequence. What cost too much? 1 sentence. 30 minutes lost choosing fonts. What unlocked motion? 1 sentence. Saying sequence only focused feedback. What will I try first next time? 1 sentence, actionable. Start with the grid template. Pick fonts Friday. 1 kindness for future me. 1 sentence. Doc renamed with date. Next. Add examples to slide. 2. Keep it under 90 seconds. Post it where you'll trip on it tomorrow. Top of the doc. A physical card on your keyboard. The goal isn't memoir. It's settings. You are tuning dials. Less friction here. More rails there. The right track at 0 to 0. Over a week, your 5-line stack will read like a user manual for your own brain. Debrief interpersonal moments the same way. What landed? What wobbled? What to try next? 1 kindness. This protects relationships from the fog of feeling and prevents the worst narrative. I always mess this up. From hijacking evidence. Growth gets cheaper when you stop paying tuition to the same class twice. Story. 10. Close kindly. Start tomorrow. Stuck days end best when they end on purpose. Close like you're locking a small shop you love. Sweep the floor. Surfaces to neutral. Sink to clear. Windows to night. Count the till. 3 evidences. 1 credit each. Sent MTV because I asked for sequence only. Walked 3 blocks because shoes were staged. Replied to Sam because I wrote the 4-line script. Name 1 mercy. The barista who remembered. The way the rain paused when you stepped out. Mercy metabolized. Becomes resilience. Write 1 breadcrumb at the top of your next document. Next. Draft the story about the train window. Cha to do 7. Put a verb in tomorrow's first calendar block so your body knows what it's arriving to. Lay out the uniform of beginnings. Mug, hoodie, playlist, lamp. Stage your scene so morning you feels expected, not inspected. Say an enough sentence out loud. Today was sufficient to make tomorrow easier. The nervous system believes the voice it hears most. Make it yours and make it kind. Kindness is not avoidance. It is maintenance. Put your phone to bed in another room, like a toddler with sticky fingers. Put a book on your pillow, so scrolling has to climb over it. If worry loops start their parade, give them a parking lot. A small notebook on the nightstand. Each loop gets a line and a date. Close the notebook. Promise 1 decisive action for the loudest loop tomorrow at 10:15. Keep the promise. The loops will learn. Turn off 1 light with your hand. Let the last light be across the room so you have to arrive at rest. You can't sprint your way out of stuck. You can tilt the floor and keep it tilted. Closing kindly is how you hold the angle overnight. Tomorrow, you'll begin again. 2 minutes. 1 visible win. The next hinge. The right order. That's not small. That's a way through. The future you wrote these letters because they know motion returns to those who make room for it. You just did.